This is the Midnight Runner radio show. We're leading the opposition in the fight for the real America.
We fight through the hurt, fight through the pain. Without the hate, there is no gain. We live our lives for the love of the game, and we will rise.
Alright, this is your host Christopher Knight of the Midnight Runner radio show. This is a Midnight Runner radio production video. We are looking at some of the top things that Obama has promised and has not fulfilled. Now, this may seem like it's been beaten to a dead horse or, you've heard it a bunch of times, but the reality is this guy is a liar, okay? Most Democrat leaders, politicians are liars. Obama is the king of liars. He told people what they wanted to hear so that he can get into office, when the reality is he don't really care about this country. All right, he cares about his own agenda. I want to make that clear throughout some of these promises right here. Let's look at lobbyist rules, okay? First pledge. Obama said, when you walk into my administration, you will not be able to work on regulations or contracts directly related to your former employer for at least 2 years. This is what Obama said during a June 22nd, 2007 speech in Manchester, New Hampshire. What was the result of that? He broke that promise, okay? This pledge was broken from the very beginning of Obama's presidency. Okay, with the nomination of William Lynn as Deputy Defense Secretary, Lynn was registered until last July as a defense lobbyist for Raytheon Corporation, where he advocated for a range of military programs. Even though Obama did issue the ethics rules he promised on the campaign trail, he ended up issuing a waiver on Lynn's behalf after senators threatened to hold up the nomination. So Lynn was confirmed, and the administration continued to grant waivers for subsequent former lobbyists. Okay? So he breaks that rule, but I got a reason to do that. They were going to hold up his nomination, so I'm going to break that promise and go around it. Fantastic. How about on spending? This was Obama. Quote, when George Bush came into office, our national debt was around $5 trillion. It's now over $10 trillion. We've almost doubled it. But actually, Obama said, I'm cutting more than I'm spending so that it will be a net spending cut. This is what Obama said during an October 7th, 2008 debate in Nashville, Tennessee. Well, what was the verdict of that? Promise broken. The federal budget deficit for fiscal year 2009 tripled to a record $1.4 trillion, according to a Congressional Budget Office estimate out in early October. Now, that's nearly $1 trillion more than the $459 billion deficit recorded in President Bush's last full year. The recession-driven declines in revenue accounted for a large part of Obama's red ink, but so did increases in his spending on everything from the economic stimulus to Wall Street bailouts. Though Obama still says he wants to bring the deficit down significantly before the end of his first term. Now, projections show the fiscal 2010 deficit will also exceed $1 trillion, even if Obama does make major changes to fiscal policy and cut the deficit in half. But that's still hundreds of billions of dollars every year to the national debt. It's pretty clear. Transparency, his pledge. That's what I will do in bringing all parties together, he said. Not negotiating behind closed doors, but bringing all parties together and broadcasting those negotiations on C-SPAN so that the American people can see what the choices are. That was Obama during a January 31st, 2008 debate in Los Angeles. The verdict? Promise broken. Okay, while Obama and his congressional allies have given countless briefings and speeches on health care reform, much of the negotiations have been taking place behind closed doors. Now, these private meetings have grown more common since the Senate Finance Committee passed its version of the bill in mid-October, becoming the last of 5 congressional panels to clear the bill. Now, lawmakers are trying to hammer out versions that can pass the full House and the Senate. Some of that's coming up this week. Maybe the House version on Thursday, perhaps, is going to be voted on. Okay, so he broke that. Okay, health insurance mandate. How about this one? Now, if you got a health care plan that you like, you can keep it, he said. All I'm going to do is help you to lower the premiums on it. You still have a choice of a doctor. There's no mandate involved, is what Obama said during an October 7, 2008 debate, once again in Nashville, Tennessee. What's the verdict? Promise broken. Listen carefully. All of the health care reform plans before Congress endorsed some kind of requirement for people to get health insurance. And during his September 9th address to a joint session of Congress, Obama endorsed the idea as well. quote, improving our healthcare system only works if everybody does their part, unquote. The president said, now Obama expressed a wholly different point of view during the Democratic primaries. Right? Remember, he said when one of the few policy differences between him and Hillary Clinton was that she supported an individual mandate while he did not. Now, he persistently defended the decision, arguing that the reason people don't have health insurance is because they can't afford it, not because they don't want it. You're not going to be able to keep your own health insurance. Not once if one of these bills get passed. There's no way. There's going to be a mandate that you're going to have to carry a certain type of insurance. And if it's not the one you have, you're going to lose it. How about number 5? What about the whole sunlight before signing? Remember that? He was going to let everybody see the bills. Well, when Obama campaigned for the Democratic presidential nomination in Manchester, New Hampshire, back in 2007, he announced his sunlight before signing promise. He says, when there is a bill that ends up, and this is a quote, when there is a bill that ends up on my desk as the president, you, the public, will have 5 days to look online and find out what's in it before I sign it, is what he said. That's funny. I haven't seen any of them. Now, he repeated that promise on his campaign website. Quote, too often bills are rushed through Congress and to the president before the public has the opportunity to review them. Now, as President, Obama will not sign any non-emergency bill without giving the American public an opportunity to review and comment on the White House website for 5 days, is what he said. However, Obama signed his first bill, the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Restoration Act, on January 20th, only 2 days after its passage. Well, wait, what? 2 days? That's not 5. It's not. What? He signed a second bill expanding the state children's health insurance program just 3 hours after Congress passed it. But no one got to look at that. Again, on February 17th, Obama signed his 1,000-page, $787 billion stimulus aimed at jolting the declining U.S. economy. He did only one business day after it passed through Congress, without allowing for 5 days of public comment. Heck, there wasn't enough time for the politicians to even read that thing. Remember the promise about the capital gains tax elimination? See, it was according to his comprehensive tax plan released during his campaign, Obama promised to, quote, eliminate capital gains taxes for small businesses. I remember that. But just weeks prior to the election, Obama advisors Austin Goolsbee and Jason Furman told the Wall Street Journal that Obama planned tax cuts that included the elimination of capital gains taxes for small businesses and startups. He said people who invest in small businesses have only been allowed to exclude 50% of that gain from capital gains taxes. This is true. This is what's happened. While Obama's $787 billion economic stimulus package reduces the tax liability, raising the exclusion to 75%, it does not eliminate it. You're not taking it out. He's not going to eliminate that. What about the New American Jobs Tax Credit? That was another broken promise. During his transition, Obama promised to provide a $3,000 refundable tax credit to existing businesses for every additional full-time U.S. employee that they hired. I remember that. If they hired a full-time employee, they'd get $3,000 refundable tax credit for 2009-2010. He said if a company that currently has 10 U.S. employees increases its domestic full-time employment to 20 employees, this company would get a $30,000 tax credit, enough to offset the entire added payroll tax cost to the company for the first $50,000 of income for the new employees. That's what he said. Where's that at? Haven't seen any of that yet. He said the tax credit will benefit all companies creating new jobs, even though struggling to make profit. But guess what? Obama's promise was never included in the stimulus package. So, we'll see what happens at the end when people file for their taxes. I'll take a while. I guess it's not on there. What about the hiatus from 401k penalties? Many unemployed and financially strapped Americans have considered early withdrawals of 401k and retirement accounts to survive the current recession. However, the IRS imposes strict penalties of up to 10%, plus federal, state, and local income taxes on such advances. In October 2008, Obama released his rescue plan for the middle class, in which he promised to allow financially distressed Americans to withdraw up to $10,000 from their 401k accounts without having to pay penalties. However, Obama's promise was never included in the recent stimulus package. People are still getting penalized. Broke that too. How about broken promise number 9 here? Only got time for about this one, maybe one more. No jobs for lobbyists. Obama promised America he would loosen the grip of lobbyists on Washington. In his November 10th, 2007 speech in Des Moines, Iowa, Obama declared, "I am in this race to tell corporate lobbyists that their days of setting the agenda in Washington are over." Acorn. I have done more than any other candidate in this race to take on lobbyists, and I've won. They have not funded my campaign, they will not run my White House, and they will not drown out the voices of the American people when I am president. However, Obama's campaign fundraising team included 38 members of law firms that were paid $138 million in 2007. He's a liar. Vote him out and all his cronies. 2010. If they're up, they're out.